Welcome back to the Forensics Unplugged channel. Do not forget to hit the subscribe button. Branded panel wipes versus homemade panel wipes. Some people ask the question, John, what is a panel wipe? So a panel wipe is for removing the trace elements of grease and oil and silicons and maybe even old remnants of waxes. There's a controversial area. To give you a squeaky clean panel so that detailing products which benefit from a clean prep surface, because they might want to bond to that surface like ceramic coatings or sealants, but even a wax will benefit from a clean prep surface and stick to the paintwork better. So that's why you need a squeaky clean surface. Now, here's the interesting thing, okay? The industry tells us that you should not mix up IPA and water because IPA is harsh and it will destroy your paintwork and it doesn't work as well. IPA is rubbish. You need to use a branded panel wipe because it's much better. And I've done videos on this before and I probably came to the conclusion that a branded panel wipe where they're using other materials beyond IPA may be more effective, but Jesus, the price difference is like, ugh. That's the problem I have. Some of these products, even the beloved Bilt Hamber, they're just as expensive. Bilt Hamber don't have a cheap panel wipe, but I don't think you can get this in. Can you get this in 5 litres now? That was a big problem with this product. It was only available in these tiny bottles, 500ml bottles, and it's like 15 quid. Gyeon Prep, I can't remember what the price is of this. I think you can get it in 4 litres. But I bet you it's about 40, I bet you it's probably more like about 60 quid, isn't it? For 4 litres. Let me know. You know, sorry, apologies. You shouldn't misrepresent the product. So I'll put in the description what the price actually is. And Gtechniq panel wipe, I believe this is about 70 odd quid, maybe even more for 5 litres. And it's another really expensive panel wipe. Koch Chemie SIL, the one that I recommend, is about 20 to 25 quid for 5 litres, but it's a concentrate and you mix it down about 1 to 4, 1 to 3. So it's like, basically think of Koch Chemie SIL as pure alcohol and you've got to mix it right down. And it virtually is pure alcohol as well. Now some little things that I think are important. One, if you ask a lot of pro detailers that have been around for a while, what's the #1 OEM manufacturer of car abrasives? You know, it's going to be Koch. Most of them, not everyone obviously, but lots will say Koch. They've been doing it the longest. They've got a massive range of abrasives. They've got a massive amount of expertise in it. And then where I'm going with this is, what are Koch selling you to remove their abrasives, to give you a bare bone prep? An alcohol based product. And I've sat there and I've discussed this with Koch, you know, all of these things around solvents and panel wipes and stuff like that, and why they use alcohol based if it's so bad. Now first up, Koch will say you should really use this at around about 30%, you know, with water. Do not use it, if it's above 70% and you're using it on really soft, lower quality, softer clear coat, then it could mar, you know, the alcohol solvent at that concentration could damage, maybe put a little bit of hazing on the paint, you know, where it is damaging the clear coat. So solvents can damage soft clear coat. So keep this below 30%. Don't keep it on the panel too long. You let it work, sits there, work it in, and it's going to start evaporating very quickly, and buff it as it's on the turn, as they say. And it won't sit on the panel, and it's never going to do any damage. So how you use these products is an important thing around whether or not they're going to damage the paintwork long term. If you use panel wipes incorrectly, let them dry, use them on hot temperatures, you could damage paintwork. But especially when you have to bulk it down. You obviously need to be careful with SIL, because if you use it neat, and there will be people out there that buy this, don't read the instructions and use it neat. So you need to be careful with things like that. The next thing is the argument that alcohol, isopropyl alcohol, is not an effective degreaser. I don't believe that to be true. If you just go and look at the Google Wiki for what isopropyl alcohol is. Isopropyl alcohol. Isopropanol alcohol. Struggle with that word. ISO. It's a very effective. It's a very effective solvent at breaking down oil. You know, it's not breaking down solids or anything. It's there to break down oil. That's one of its great functions. But another reason alcohol solvents are used is because they have a very fast, or very low flash temp point, so they'll evaporate even at cold temperatures, and their evaporation rate is very quick. So when you're using, that's a property of alcohol solvents. Alcohol solvents are polar solvents, so they're water miscible along with water, which is a water-based solvent. The hydrocarbons, the non-polar solvents, can typically require slightly higher flash times, about 10 degrees with a lot of them, and the evaporation rates can be longer. So in winter in my garage, if I spray a hydrocarbon over half of my panel, apply it over half the panel, buff it, if I then count to 2 minutes and sprinkle water over my panel, the side I haven't touched with the panel wipe is going to be sheeting the water off. The side I've wiped with the panel wipe is going to be all repellent because there are traces of the hydrocarbon still on the panel after a few minutes, and hydrocarbons and non-polar solvents repel water. So that's a simple test. What are the implications of that, John? What are you talking about? Well, if the solvent is still on the panel because it hasn't evaporated, because it's not 10 degrees, you go and apply a coating on top of it, the coating's not going to bond because you've got material in the way. So it can go horribly wrong in the UK climate unless you're in a workshop environment and your warehouse, you know, it's all temperature controlled and it's 20 degrees in there and it's going to flash off. And you know how long it takes to flash off properly, because some of these hydrocarbon panel wipes, that Tetrasil one, that caught me out a few times in the winter. You need to, if you're going to use that, my rule of thumb in the winter was, after I've done a wipe down with the Tetrasil panel wipe, leave the car alone in the garage for a couple of hours so that all remnants of that mineral spirit in the winter will eventually vaporise off the panel. If you don't, you can go and apply over the top of the mineral and get back over the product, so you've got traces of panel wipe on there. That is one of the reasons Koch use alcohol solvent. Now, a problem with home brew alcohol solvents, so in other words IPA and water, is that oil and water don't mix. So typically a good panel wipe will contain a detergent, surfactant, tiny amount to act as, because surfactants need to be rinsed off, so you only want to use small amounts so that there's less, you know, you wouldn't use a high concentration of surfactant because you'd have to rinse it. So typically if you're going to clean your car with a surfactant first, which is a great way of degreasing it, you'd wash the car with hot water and a surfactant and rinse all that off, and that would degrease the panel, ideally prior to using a panel wipe. But if you use like a small amount, 1 to 2% of a surfactant that's a good emulsifier, then that's going to help the grease on the panel to mix with the water that's carrying the alcohol solvent in your homemade panel wipe. So that's why I put 2% Surfex HD, which is a very powerful degreaser surfactant. So it's a very powerful emulsifier of oils, and that's one of the reasons I think this homemade panel wipe that I use is really, really good. That, and I use about 25% IPA, so it's quite strong. Now I want to move on to the subject of what makes these panel wipes, and these are the three that I'm going to be testing. So I'm going to be putting these three up against my homebrew, and we'll talk about what we're going to do in a second. What makes these three cool? You know, why should we fork out for these products? And I've picked brands that I like. I've not picked these brands to make fools of them and try and say that these are all a con and all that, because I don't think that. But what I half expect is I'm half expecting that I can't tell the difference when I do this testing. Now the Gtechniq panel wipe is alcohol solvent based, so it's probably using a null. Maybe it's isopropanol. I'll go and find the SDS. On a side note, huge credit to Gtechniq, all their products on their website. every one of them has an SDS there, which is nice and easy to access, and that makes my life a little bit easier when doing this. I like it. I like it when the brands make the SDSs readily available. You know, it should all be this way. And I'm told this has a little bit of tooling in it. So you've got alcohol solvents, pure alcohols, and solvents formulated to remove and dissolve polishing oils. Toluene, I believe, is a very strong non-polar solvent. So I can't understand how they can mix non-polar and polar together without emulsifiers. Unless, yeah. So that's I don't understand. That's just a lack of understanding from me how you can mix those, because normally normally it's an emulsion. So I'm going to go and do some research and try and figure out how you can do that. Now, or maybe they don't mix that well and you need to shake the bottle up. Shake well and wear gloves. Maybe they don't mix and you've got to shake it. Yeah, there we go. It might be that simple. Next up, Gyeon Prep. I think, from memory, well, I can smell a bit of alcohol solvent there, but I think this contains limonene. And if it does, I love limonene. Limonene is a solvent from orange peel, orange oils, and it's a very expensive solvent. It's a real nice solvent. So I think this is alcohol solvent and limonene. And obviously lots of water. But is it worth it? Because I've also got some raw limonene, so I could experiment with putting limonene in my own home brew and seeing if it improves it. You know, we're not all into making these chemicals at home, are we? Messing around, but I am when it comes to panel wipe, because it's so easy to do. And Bilt Hamber, different to those other two, is a hydrocarbon-based product. What does it say? Yeah. Is a pure chemical cleaner that removes hydrocarbon road films, oil-based matter, silicons, old waxes. Yeah, so I don't think there's any water in this Bilt Hamber product. Could be wrong. I think this is a pure hydrocarbon. I think it smells like it. I'll go and check out the SDS and I'll ask Bilt Hamber maybe a little bit more about what's in it. This is a phenomenal panel wipe, by the way. It's a phenomenal panel wipe, but it's expensive. Is it going to flash, you know, like I said about other panel wipes, is it going to flash below 10 degrees? Is it going to evaporate quick enough? Does it tell you how long to leave it? The freshly cleansed panel should be sealed with wax or sealant straight away. Should be used in a well ventilated environment. Gloves should be worn, nitrile gloves. Don't smoke near it, you know. Sources of ignition should be avoided. As you picture in here, sparking up this with the... You can use this while the panel is still wet, which is really interesting. Should be applied to wet the surface. Use on a cool surface. Alternatively, use a wet microfiber cloth when to spread the fluid across. Do they mean... Sometimes they can mean wet with product rather than wet with water. Because if this is hydrocarbon, do you want to be using a wet... Because it's not the right carrier for hydrocarbons. But then maybe this is, I don't know. These are all the things that go through my head. So I think you should, I like to use this in the same way I'll use Tetrasil. I'll get an applicator, soak out the surface of the applicator with the product. So you've got, you know, a wet applicator if you like, but not wet with water. Spray a bit onto the panel and then just make the film. And that's really easy, and I'll just use that same applicator for the entire car. You can flip it if you want, and then a pile of clean cloths and buff it on the turn with clean cloths. Don't use greasy rags and things like that because they'll be adding grease. So many things can go wrong in the prep. That's another discussion, isn't it? Everyone seems to get different durability of products, and some people, you know, to be fair, some people have got better durability than I've got on some of my tests, but then I've seen for every single product I've reviewed on the channel, there is someone that claims it's only lasted like a week or 2 weeks, and that's never the case. So we've talked about that before on the channel. Usually that's a film has been formed over the top of that product which is masking it, or it didn't bond properly, or they've rubbed it off of the panel with too much sort of buffing, you know. It's one of those three, you know, poor prep, poor maintenance, all that sort of stuff. So I don't trust when you guys tell me a product only lasts 2 weeks. I really don't trust that, sorry. Not all of you. So this is hopefully a little interesting precursor on our IPA versus homemade panel wipes, and some of the interesting things. The difference between polar and non-polar, the inclusion of an emulsifier in your homemade panel wipe might be a very key thing. The branded products and how they're not all the same. You know, this is using alcohol solvents and toluene, this is hydrocarbon, this could be water, alcohol solvents, limonene, different approaches. Every brand will tell you that their approach is the best. What is the best? What am I going to do to try and test this? We are going to lay out a greasy film of polishing oil over a panel. We are going to wipe one strip off with no product. We're going to wipe another strip off with this. Clean towels each time. Clean applicator, clean towels. Strip off with homebrew. Strip off with prep. Strip off with this. Strip off with this. We could even do a section where we don't even buff and we just leave all the oils. But I think a dry buff would be better, yeah, because that's more realistic. And then we'll apply a ceramic coating. Probably 2 layers of coating. I just want to build up a big thick layer of coating so it's never going to be an issue around erosion. If the coating is gone quickly, it's because it's not bonded and it's gone. You're washing it off the surface. That's what I want to measure. So we want a nice hydrophobic coating. We're going to put 2 layers of it on, and we'll leave it for a week on the panel in here, and then we'll test it with the hydrophobicity and washing it with a detergent, you know, Surfex or something like that. Seeing what happens. Now I'm very interested to see the panel that I don't degrease, because I am convinced that is going to, the ceramic won't bond properly and it'll be gone off the panel quite rapidly when I start rubbing on it with a wash mitt or something. But I don't think I'm going to see much of a difference. I think this is going to adequately degrease and give us a squeaky clean finish. And I don't think there'll be any difference in durability of the ceramic coating with these products. So does that mean we need to do another test where we could maybe wet sand or dry sand a panel with some P6000 on a little DA or something, haze up the panel, put a polish over it to disguise, you know, put in a hand polish, and then degrease the hand polish to remove the filling materials and see which product makes the panel go back to hazy the best. That'll be good. And another one I'm going to do is I'm going to lay down possibly, I'm not sure if I'll include this in the video, but my solvent-based marker pen, the white film on that, I'm going to lay that down and see how effective they are. And I think it will show that this one will clean it the best because it's a solvent carried ink pigment. I'm not sure if that's relevant. Anyway, I'm just thinking out loud in this video, so let me know if other tests you could do. I don't want to make it too complicated. I might just stick it to those 2 tests. So I'm in the phase where I'm building up the test at the moment. So that's where we are. And maybe doing this test will prove that this is actually no good and you've got to go and spend the money. And if so, I'll spend the money. If not, I'll carry on using this. And I love this stuff, guys. I use this as glass cleaner. I use this to prep, you know, I use it to prep trim, I use it to prep glass, I use it to prep panels, I use it for inspection wipe downs. That's another argument. If you're just using them for an inspection wipe down, it doesn't need to be perfect, you know. Am I going to be spraying 75 pounds, you know, like this, or whatever it is, 70 quid for 5 litres for an inspection wipe down where I'm going to be polishing again over the top of it? So I don't need any extra performance that this product or these ones give, because it's just an inspection. so many different arguments, and I find it all interesting. So let me know your thoughts on all of this stuff, and that's the name of the game, isn't it? Trying to delve into the areas that are interesting. So thanks for watching. Jesus, 20 minutes. 20 minutes. I could carry on. Take care. I'll see you soon.